Yeah, I could probably talk about, I mentioned earlier, well, before we come on, about my sleep, waking up at 4 and having all these, having thoughts coming in. And um, it just seems that being, when I become, I'm really, uh, let's see, how am I saying this? When I do the work and looking at question 3 and 4, who would I be without the thought? Who would I be with the thought? Who would I be without the thought? Um, I'm starting to think of that more in my life. So when a thought comes up, uh, it seems more real of, oh, this is a thought. And then, of course, along with that, it comes, how do I react, or what do I believe when I believe that thought? And it just seems, it seems, and then who would I be without it? I mean, it really helps me see, okay, I question this thought. Is this something in the past? A lot of times, yeah, okay. Or is it in the future? And then I am able to see that it's just a thought, which has a lot of power. And who would I be without it? So it helps me. Also, I think, I want to be in the present, not go in this past and future. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's and it's even possible, but at least the more I focus on it, it seems like it comes up even more. And I notice, like, when I sleep around 4 o'clock, around that time, 4 or 5, uh, I wake up with all these thoughts just coming. And sometimes, in the past, I've read a lot of books, because not a lot of books about it, but just a lot of not fiction books or whatever. And I'm realizing now that that when I read the books, when I read a book, what that is doing is just, it's almost like, uh, I kind of equate it to, let's say, if you take a shot, I don't know, a shot of whiskey, or whatever you do, eat a hamburger. I'm not anything wrong with cheeseburgers, but eat a donut, whatever. It's kind of takes it takes kind of ameliorate, it kind of assuages the situation, and it kind of fades this heavy thinking thought. Um, so what I've been doing lately, well, like last, I've been doing it for a while, and then I just had to start reading again, and I kind of had to, uh, just to kind of give myself a break. But I'm back at it now, and I tell you, I'm laying there, and these thoughts kind of pop up, um, and like I mentioned, I kind of see as this in the past. Okay, I don't need, I'm really trying to bring myself to the present. I just want to really focus on what's present. And it gives me a lot of peace when I can just almost feel my body relax. And, but I just notice that the more I think of when I see my thoughts, the more it actively happens. And as mentioned, it's just like a bunch of monkeys, and yeah, kind of tires me. I'm tired. I was, I,
Well, you've been up since four,
what's that?
so you've been up since
Well,
four, I
I
assume.
kind of,
So
after that, kind of drifting on and off. I kind of get into the space, where I'm
right.
relaxed and I'm just present, and then I drift off, and then I, wake up again with something else. And, yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't done
It's
any work on
it's a
something like this to look at.
well, it sounds like it's
Go ahead.
it's more of something that you're noticing,
Yeah, I'm
right? This
noticing
is
it.
something some things are like when I find a stressful situation and I find a stressful thought and I question that's when I do the work. But sometimes I just notice things, and it sounds like that's what you're doing, is just noticing how in many cases there's just what you're thinking is actually just a thought. And it's a thought about the past or it's a thought about the future, but it's just a thought. And that kind of awareness, or that ability to notice, often grows as you practice this work of Byron Katie, because we're in the constant practice of noticing, what is the effect of this thought? What is the thought that's bugging you in that situation? And how does it affect you? What does it feel like? How do you react? And then who would you be without it? And you start to get a sense of what's a thought and what's not. And as that becomes clearer, it becomes easier to notice these things. And there's less of a need to run away from them, or to cover them, or to kind of pacify yourself, in this case by reading, or it could be by eating, or it could be by drinking, or it could be any kind of distraction. And as you get into this, like as you start seeing that it's just a thought and it becomes interesting and you want to learn more, like you start actually looking and going into what you would normally run away from, which would be stress or stressful thinking or any kind of thing that is uncomfortable. Now, if something uncomfortable comes up, of course, part of me wants to run away. But part of me is like, what's going on in here? This could be interesting. What's up? And ultimately, it's me believing something, me believing a thought, me having a thought. And most often, it's me projecting some past thing onto the present, or imagining some future thing, which is also kind of linked to the past, onto the present. And I'm scaring myself, or getting angry, or getting frustrated, or getting sad, or having some emotional reaction based on some previous experience, or something that's not actually here. So just seeing that, like, that's an awareness that comes just kind of as a byproduct of doing the work. And one of my favorite things about the work is that it itself is a beautiful little practice, 4 questions, turnarounds, very kind of structured practice. But it cultures the nervous system to be able to just spontaneously see through things. And so you don't always do the work in a formal way on everything that comes up, but you often do see through it in a very real way, without much effort. So culture is a kind of a habit in the mind of noticing the difference between reality and a thought, and
Mm.
and noticing how the thought carries me away out of the present and brings all kinds of stress and ups and downs. And the reality is just pretty simple. It's right here. I'm comfortable. I'm lying in bed, just dozing or awake, and I'm reviewing some interesting thoughts that are coming through, but they're just thoughts. So that's awareness. It's awareness. It's a really great thing. And I was saying to you earlier, which I still love this idea, is that we're not used to um, we're used to pushing our thoughts away, at least this on the stressful thoughts. And so those thoughts, they get louder and louder because they're trying to get our attention and trying to tell us something. And we're saying, no, no, not now, not now, not, please don't bother me. And so they just get louder and louder and busier and busier. But when you turn towards them and start actually listening and inviting even the stressful thoughts and saying, hey, what are you trying to tell me? What's really going on? There's a relief that starts to happen inside those stressful thoughts, inside that thinking. It's like, oh, she's interested, she wants to hear. And so they may start talking more just because they finally have someone who's listening. But in my experience, as I continue listening genuinely to my thoughts and questioning them and seeing the whole big picture, they start getting a feeling of trust. Those thoughts that they are being heard, they're being listened, they're not being shunned or pushed away. And so they actually start becoming quieter because I'm actually dealing with the things that they're bringing my attention to. And so that's this process of paying attention to stress as a way of in a way quieting the mind. may get active in the process, but overall, we're dealing with things rather than pushing them aside. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
So if you look at something where you see it's something in the past and 4 o'clock in the morning, it's like sometimes, I guess maybe I'm discounting it, but I'm just saying, this is just a thought coming up and I don't deal with it right there. But, it's that line of looking at it, saying it's in the past, and also questioning it at a different time, And sometimes they're
Yeah, if it
just
needs
busy
more
stuff,
attention.
nothing really serious. They're just busy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can't question every thought because there's a million thoughts. They're just always coming all the time. But um, the short version and the light version is just noticing, like just like you were doing, noticing, oh, that's just from the past, or oh, that's just a thought, or um, something like that just gives you some distance on it, and that may be enough. But there's some thoughts that isn't enough for because they're really sticky and I'm really kind of caught on them and my mind just keeps circling around it. Then that's what the formal practice of the work of Byron Katie is great for, because it just gives you a chance to write the thought down, get it out on paper, and then go through the systematic way of questioning and then finding turnarounds. And that can give a lot of extra aid to loosening the thought that is kind of stuck going around in a little circle like
Right.
that. So yeah, but both things are great. Nothing nothing wrong with just noticing, and sometimes that watching a thought just kind of say thank you for hearing me and off it goes, and you're kind of left in peace. Or sometimes it takes a little more thorough examination and turnarounds and a little more time and meditation to loosen the thought that is gripping you.